Hey guys, we are back to talking tariffs, right? So hope everybody had a great July 4th weekend. Hope you spent it with family and friends and had a great time and everything. It was a slow end to last week, and here we are with a, wallop of a beginning to this week. So the news, of course, was that there's not going to be any extension beyond August 1st for the tariff deadlines, and that there's going to be a lot of sort of retaliatory tariffs if anybody goes and puts in reciprocal tariffs. I think, the market has learned to take most of this stuff with a grain of salt, but, there's still some choppy trading that's going on today as we speak. And, I think that that's going to be the case for a few weeks here, but we've seen lots and lots of opportunities in the markets. So this morning started off with a trade in Datadog that I've got posted on the site that you can take a look at. So we had sort of by the rules trading. So stocks that were making gaps that weren't earnings gaps. Right now, you're not going to have a bunch of earnings news, right? But things that were coming in on true ranges that were wider than normal, and then we went through and looked at how to go and decipher that data and figure out where the good trades are. I'm not going to go over that one here. You can go to the trading recap on the site, and it will be there for you to do sort of a deep dive on. But for now, let's go and take a look at the markets. I want to dive in here and look at where the opportunities are. So first off, you can see what's going on in the indices right down here. We've got movement on the Nasdaq, and it's in primarily in some sideways choppy trading across all the indices. But if you look here, you can see where the lion's share of what's going on in your data is just happening right around that central pivot. We've got a little bit of an excursion to the upside, but for the most part, what we're seeing is just this sort of W-shaped pattern on the chart. Not a whole lot going on there. The name of the game today has been the reversals. So if you were, watching in the room when so this earlier trading happened. Let me just get this chart of Tesla a little bigger here so that you can see it. We had this great, big pop higher on Tesla. And when you see an extension move like that on an intraday chart, when you see this kind of a thing happen where you're pretty much gunning between the pivot lines and then extending to what would be R3 on a chart, your job is to start looking for those around the horn patterns. And in particular, of course, you are looking for this guy right there. So the pattern presents frequently on a daily chart. It presents frequently on an intraday chart. And you really have to be in front of it to see where that opportunity is gonna take you. So the problem that a couple of you had was, how do you determine where that threshold level is when all you've had so far is this move and the infield fly? And again, what you want to do is go back and look at where things happened that were important on the way up. And you can see this overlapping close with the following open. And again, it's on a 5-minute time frame, and that's arbitrary in one sense, but it's not arbitrary in another. It's the time frame that we're working in. The big news was that this stuff out here started building when that move was happening. So that's your cue, and that tells you that on the move down from the base of this infield fly, which was right about there, so you had a 302.87 entry, so anywhere from 302.87 down to 302.80, and you had a target down at 301.57. So real good setup on Tesla there. And after that, we've had additional trading opportunities. So, I like Tesla intraday. I think it's a good intraday trader. So just a great American ride, right? So you got 302.65 on the top band, and you had 301.57 on the bottom. So about $1 range there. We're, out on the last one, still looking to see, are we going to get another pop up into here? And if we do, I'm going to look again for the move down lower. And even so, that'll be the third time back to the well. I'm going to keep a tight stop on it. and it's just based on all this price activity that's going on right around there. So that price action is saying, this is a good place to stick, and look for opportunities as the day goes on. The rest of these guys are pretty much in reversal territory as well. If you look at Microsoft, Microsoft is up at a level here, a threshold level, so we're kind of late, a couple minutes late to the party, but you know that you've been following a trend move, and that trend move has a reversion, and that reversion is going to get you right into the 382 of the major move that gives you a reversal back down through. And then as you come back down through that pivot, that's where I'm going to look for a short sale opportunity on Microsoft. We've got Meta and Google up here. Google's the same kind of a thing. Meta's a little bit just sort of all over the place this morning. But on Google, you can see that we've got, let me make this chart bigger for you again. On Google, what you have is this nice wave kind of a move. So you've got these orderly progressions lower, and I think that once again your opportunity here is on a move back down through 175.72 from above. Could even have a resting order up at the pivot line there with a very tight stop right above, and that makes sense as a short side entry. So I'll be watching that one as well. We've got sort of all the regular players are making these same kind of moves. NVIDIA, we had an early trade in this one today and have not seen much else. So early in the trading session in the room this morning, we were looking at NVIDIA, and we had an opportunity here that was sort of an unusual opportunity, and that was based on these two bars. Very rare that we see backdoor slider setups on a chart during the day. So intraday, if you guys don't know what a backdoor slider is, that's it right there. You can go through your workbooks, or you can go through your Income Trading Academy, or you can pull around the horn off the shelf, dust that thing off and look for it. That's a backdoor slider. And once that was in place, we had a very, very logical target on it in the room this morning, right down here. We had everything in place for this 158.81 entry, 158.55. It was a tight target. So this was a scalp right off the open. Didn't give us all that range that we're normally looking for, but we took it. So we took it in the room, called it, took the trade. We're able to book a quick profit and just sort of move on to some other things that were happening. Now, speaking of other things, if you look over at this side on our charts, then what you can see is we've got Qualcomm, Zillow, on semiconductor, and Moderna up. Couple of these, so Qualcomm, that's an acquisition story that has been a good mover over the course of the day. I think that Qualcomm is going through and making an acquisition. You can read about that in the news, but if you look at the chart here, you want to look again for these overextensions. So when the market's moving in a sideways choppy range and you get stocks that make these big legs to the upside, that tells you there's an opportunity at least for a short side move. And once again, if you're watching, right, if you're on top of your game and you're watching this up here, you see this infield fly set up at 161.34. It's not a huge move, just down to 160.53 on the target, right down into this pivot line here. And could you have had more? Could you have had an extension? Everybody always asks me, well, what about this leg of the move down here? I'm just not a big fan of trying to look for maximum favorable excursions. If you review the materials from the boot camp and just sort of review common sense trading practice, you're really looking for a measured move, and this is probably the measured move that you're looking for. But the magnitude of the move is really from up here down, and second off, what you're really trying to do is capture about 80 to 90% of that original move. You're not looking for an exact replication. It's not going to be a perfect mirror image of what happened the first go around. Now on semiconductor, that is on news. So this is just on not earnings. This is on analyst upgrades. Here, once again, if it gets up, I haven't had anything really come up on this one yet, but I'm watching it definitely. And if it gets back up into that high at 57.87, then I'm going to look and see there, is it rejected again? And if it is, I'm going to give it enough room to get down a little bit and say, if it comes back down through that line right there, it gets down into 57.75 or so, I guess is where that is, then we've got room down to 57.10 with a tight stop up right above that 57.87 high. The rest of this that we're looking at today, we've got Moderna. So Moderna is pretty interesting here. Moderna is up on big news. So they've got an influenza vaccine. Influenza vaccine is promising, and the fact that they've got approval on the thing, it shows results that are much better than other vaccines on the market. That says we're likely to have repeated moves, repeated thrusts higher. Problem is it hasn't pulled back. So let's see, do we get some pullbacks, preferably down into this range right here? If we get down into that 32.40 area, I am going to look for another opportunity on Moderna. So I think that's it as far as the trading opportunities for right now go. If you have any questions, you can shoot me an email, adrian@traderinsight.com, or pop me a text. Be happy to go through it with you. And in the interim, let's get back into the